Our Women's History Month coverage brings us a special segment on money today. We are looking at how women have changed the game in financial history. Joining us now is Dave Elizondo from True Financial Partners in Bettendorf. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Nina.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, how have things changed over the years for women in the workplace with finance?
Well, the changes have been good in that there are a lot more women in the workforce today. We're seeing a lot more women in key roles in corporate America, more female CEOs. We see a lot more women that are owning their own businesses, and women are making a lot more money than they used to. So, and we're also seeing more women in the financial advising platform, which is, I think, is a great thing.
And with women becoming more successful, owning their own companies and making more money, what advice can you give them?
Well, Nina, my best advice for everybody would be to learn more about money and about financial matters. A lot of people think that money is just about, the income that comes in and the money that goes out to pay bills. And I want to say that it's a lot more complicated than that. And we find that if you look around in America today, the people that are the most successful are the people that know the most about money and finance and its complexity. So I can't stress this anymore. Everyone should learn as much as they can about money and how it works.
Now, what has your own experience been with women and finance?
Ooh, that's a great question. Uh, I've been doing this for 39 years, and I see a lot of times where um, with an average couple, let's say, there's not a lot of knowledge. One person handles the finances, and quite honestly, for the last 30 years, it's been more the men than the women. And my own situation is the same thing where, my wife, perfect example, she has no idea where we have accounts, where we have money, how much money we have. And although I have encouraged her oftentimes, hey, you gotta sit down and you gotta learn more about this, she just chooses not to. So I think I would encourage everybody to get more involved with the finances. Like I mentioned before, learn as much as you can, but you need to get more, everybody needs to get a lot more involved in their own financial affairs.
Now, what are some of those risks that you were just kind of talking about of women not being involved in the planning?
Well, the biggest risk is that I'll use my own situation for example. I handle all the financial side of things between my wife and I, and what happens if I don't wake up tomorrow? Well, this is a very difficult time. Death of a spouse is one of the most emotional and difficult times for any human. And imagine having to make financial decisions, take over all the finances in the family, pay bills, and all the stuff that goes along with that. Imagine having to do that when you're in a highly emotional state and you don't know anything about the financial side of things. And so you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you have to make certain that if your spouse is no longer going to handle the financial matters, or maybe they just decide not to handle it anymore, everybody needs to be in a position to be able to pick up and take off, where the other one left off at a moment's notice.
And what are some of the solutions to that?
Well, anything financial is really complicated. A lot of people say that financial advisors speak a different language, and in a lot of cases, that's true. It's very, very complicated. So I would say for everybody, like I keep saying, learn more, learn more, learn more. Take classes. There's a lot of good classes at the local community colleges. You can read, talk to other people, your friends and relatives who are successful financially. Find out what they're doing, find out what they know. Just do as much as you can to try and learn as much as you can about the financial, side of things.
And I know you just threw some statistics at us about how many women are involved, but what if a woman is not married?
Uh, that's even more complicated because you don't have a partner to lean on. And so, in the event, and when someone is single, whether it's women or men, you need to make certain that you have a better idea of what's going on financially, just because you don't have anybody to lean on. And the problem is that we have something out there that we call the Hope Plan. There are a lot of people who have not been managing their financial situation, and they're on what we call the Hope Plan. They're hoping everything is going to work out just fine. And the problem is that when you're on the Hope Plan, you're not going to find out if it's wrong or it's not going to work until much later on in life. And at that point, it might be too late. So we are trying to encourage everybody, get off the Hope Plan and take control of your financial situation.
Now, I'll out myself here. I am definitely one of those people on that hope plan right now as a
Mhm.
single 25-year-old here. But what are some of the solutions to, if you are on that hope plan? I mean, do you think it's ever too late to learn about finance and experience all of that? Or is there a plan, anything like that?
Oh, it's never too late. And there are 5 or 6 or 10 basic things that everybody should know so you can start to take that financial education one step at a time. There are some basic things that everybody should know that if you just do the first 2 or 3 or 4 steps, a person would find themselves much further down the path in a much better situation, if you will. So I would say for you, you're young, you've got a lot of years ahead of you. Start learning, start getting that education, and start taking steps towards getting off of that hope plan.
And now let's say a woman is married and she's not currently involved with finance. How can she kind of, I guess, talk to her partner and make it her way in so it is a 50-50?
Well, it is 50-50, except for the fact that maybe in your example, she doesn't know really what's going on. And I would say if that couple has a financial advisor, a good financial advisor, she should start participating in all of the financial meetings or visits that they have. She should make it a point to take the bull by the horns herself and go meet with the financial advisor. And if they don't have one, go find a financial advisor. I mean, I'm happy to talk to anybody, not for the purpose of trying to solicit people to come see me, but just for the purpose of trying to get people on the right track. So get out there, and there's a lot of good financial advisors out there. Go find one, and you might have to talk to several before you find the one that you know is right for you. Go talk to several, because every time you talk to one, whether it's the right advisor or not, you're going to learn something new.
Some really good insight there. Thank you so much. So that
Mhm.
was Dave Elizondo with True Financial Partners in Bettendorf. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, as we continue our Women's History Month coverage, let's take a look at some of the influential women in history for finance. Maggie Walker became the first woman in the U.S. to charter a bank, St. Luke's Penny Savings Bank, in 1903, and served as the bank's president until her death in 1934. Walker was a leading advocate for women and African Americans in the segregated South and founded St. Luke's as a way to encourage them to harness their economic power by saving their money. And Madam C.J. Walker was born in 1867 into slavery in Louisiana. She became the first self-made woman millionaire through creating and selling a line of hair care products for African American women. And Muriel Seibert, considered the first woman of finance to some, became the first woman to have a seat on the New York Stock Exchange in 1967, joining as the only woman among 1,300 male members of the floor.